Mishka and welcome back to my channel. In today's episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always, we are going to be doing the final moment of step 1. Wow, I just can't believe that we're almost done with step 1. It feels like a roller coaster so far. But before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and share this with your friends so they can find my amazing channel just like you have right now. So yeah, let's get into it and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so sleepover.
Okay.
Alright kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time as if it heard your mom's words. You halted your game and looked over. Mom was almost done setting the table. She was walking around the mahogany wood in the process of putting down celery. Mommy was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred, uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Ew. Finally, I'm ready to eat. Then she cast a sly glance in your direction. You recognize that look. Last one to the right is a rotten egg. Oh my god. Last one to the table is a rotten egg. But it was too late. Lizzie had already bolted towards the kitchen. No, you're staying sitting because she's cheating. If you didn't get up and race after her, then technically Lizzie would have been winning against nobody. She could have that kind of victory. You crossed your arms over your chest, remaining seated and watched. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mom moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again! You didn't win because you were racing yourself. No, I told you we were both racing. You're just so slow. I wasn't racing and you know it. That sounds like something a rotten egg would say. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips, and then looked over your shoulder. Cove, you could be the tiebreaker. Was that a real race? I totally won. You blinked. You hadn't even noticed what he had been doing during this little event, which wasn't much. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, the arm with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. It felt sort of strange to see him still here so late. Tonight, Cove had come to your house for a sleepover. Your mom's and his dad had planned it a few days ago. I feel like we would have been begging your moms to invite Cove over. They promised they would, now that they've made good on their word. You looked forward to it since the moment you found out. And you even helped Mom search the storage room for her sleeping bag and extra bedding to prepare for his visit. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's questions, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her, not that Lizzie would make it easy. This wasn't the first time she had asked him to be the referee for one of her sudden races.
Come on!
Well, did I win or what?
No.
What? I don't think you won. How come? It's not my fault Mina's slow. Cheating's cheating and cheaters never win.
You always pick her side.
Cove snuck a shy peek at you before answering her. I pick her and she picks me. You're a couple of rotten eggs then. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or a rotten egg. You're each farm fresh. Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Alright.
Now listen to Mom and come sit at the table for dinner, all three of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you when Mom turned her back. Your parents brought the last of the food, then they took their seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He had stood up from his spot on the floor, but he hadn't made a move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Slowly he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, one free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last 2 were on the other side on the other sides of where your moms were sitting. Sit next to me. Cove's gaze met your blue eyes. You smiled. Briefly, he grinned back. He walked over, pulled out the chair next to yours, and sat down. You were glad he wanted to sit with you. He just needed to know it was okay. Now that everyone was situated, Mommy began to pass out plates.
Okay.
Digging kids, I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all the veggies. Yes, Mom. Each person at the table served themselves except for one. Cove hesitated again. He fidgeted with his hands clamped on the top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye at least. That's pineapple chicken. Want to try some? No, not really. Sorry. By then, your moms had noted that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey?
Wow.
Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow. Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating and spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink, that's what happens if you miss the meal. Elizabeth, that's not true. You know that. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with a fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot. I knew I should have asked your dad what your favorite foods were. It's alright, Lonnie. Maybe he'll find a new favorite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. Give me your plate. Cove was a little confused by your request, but he handed it to you anyway. You took the plate from him and piled only the best foods on it. He watched your work intently, his good hand shoved underneath his leg. When you were satisfied with the amount on his plate, you returned it. You should like some of these.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Good job.
That was very kind of you, Mina. Yay! You sat up straighter at the praise. At first, Cove poked at the food. Clearly, he was apprehensive to eat something new, but he took a few exploratory bites.
Right?
It's good, huh? Isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still spared more meat with his fork and ate it, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mommy grinned at the word, satisfied even though it wasn't exactly a glowing commendation. Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. Don't be mean to your friend. We're not friends.
Oh.
Mommy flowered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. You weren't surprised by Cove's declaration. The more you got to know him, the more you realized he wasn't the type of kid to keep his opinions to himself. She wasn't easy to get along with all the time, though Cove didn't make much of an effort either. You wondered how he felt about you. You had never asked before. When you gave Cove a look, he returned a smile that made you feel good, even though you were still unsure what it meant. Your mommy looked at Cove. Your mommy looked at Mom and only got a shrug.
No.
Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such things as a weird person and a non-weird person. They're just different perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to anyone, but Pam... Mommy tried to whisper exclusively to Mom. Her attempt to make it audible over the sounds of clanking silverware meant you caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends. He said so. As parents, we can only try, and sometimes we fail. Not all kids can be as thick as thieves. Now less talking and more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But Mom! No buts. We've talked about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. For now, you don't get to stay up late. Lizzie sulked, muttering under her breath about how it wasn't right. You groaned about it as well. It seemed way too early to go to sleep.
Isn't that great?
The sooner you sleep, the sooner a brand new day will be here. I think that's pretty exciting. You weren't sure you agreed. The rest of the dinner passed by uneventfully. Cove was silent for the most of it, even when you nudged him and tried to get him to talk. All too soon, the table was cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered to your bedrooms. Mom finished tucking you in and kissed your brow just as Mommy poked her head in the room. All ready for lights off, you two? You were lying comfortably in your bed, the blanket hiked up under your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Mom had set up the sleeping bag on the floor for Cove, just beside your bed. He had already wiggled inside. You nodded for the both of you in response to Mommy's question.
Good night.
Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mom tweaked your nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and left. Mommy took her place sitting on the edge of your bed.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, sweetie. She pressed a soft kiss on your forehead. You giggled as strands of her hair fell forward and tickled you. Mommy smiled down affectionately at you, then moved her attention to Cove, who watched from a spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high, and he shakes his hand like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. He keeps doing that until sometimes he does drop me on my bed, or other times he lowers me and we pretend like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited when talking about the nightly ritual he and his dad had shared. He seemed to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. But I don't want to do that here.
Aww.
I'll have fun, though I think you're right that it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be a soft enough landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Mia's other mom. But I'm the nicer one, just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up.
Take care.
Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested a hand on the light switch and looked to you. Good night, sleep tight. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. With a last smile, Mommy turned off the light and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. You listened to her footsteps fade as she walked down the hallway. But even as the sound vanished, your eyes stayed open. It was just you and Cove now. You hardly knew what to do with yourself. You were happy that Cove was spending the night, but you couldn't shake the conversation from earlier at the dinner table. Cove had said that he and Lizzie weren't friends, but that wasn't the part that was bothering you. You couldn't stop wondering from what he really thought about you. You decided to ask him about it. Cove? Yeah? Are we friends? Cove didn't speak for a few moments, and you wondered if you'd startle him with a question. The longer the silence stretched, the more uneasy you felt about his impending answer. When you heard his voice next, it was almost so quiet you had to strain your ears to catch the words. Do you think we're friends, Mina? You wrinkled your nose at the question being redirected back at you. The way Cove had asked it made you think that maybe he hadn't even questioned it before, and now more than ever you wondered if he should have kept quiet instead. We're best friends. Cove didn't answer straight away, and your heart sank, thinking he didn't feel the same. Or maybe he fell asleep, although when you listened hard enough, you could hear the sounds of his sleeping bag, like he was wringing the fabric between his hands. He let out a shaky little breath before he spoke. Yeah, oh, he's blushing! Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't had one before, so I guess that's what it feels like. It's different than friends. We're best friends. You smiled at the answer, pleased that he felt the same way, and agreeing that best friends does make more sense than just normal friends. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could only see a faint outline of the lump under the covers. Cove? What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard a sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up. Your eyes had gotten used to the low light level so you could see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag, wobbled towards your side table, and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second, then pulled his hand out. Instead of his glasses, though, he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew, even without reading the title, which one it was. That was one your mom would read to you. It was special. What are you doing with that? Cove shrugged, squinting at the newly found cover in the dark. I just thought it looked cool. The compliment he afforded your special book had you grinning, your confusion forgotten. It is really cool. Oh yeah? What's it about? It's a story about a square who wants to become a knight, and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but Mommy reads it to me. She uses different voices for every character. Some of them are really silly too. There's lots of characters and you all have good lines, so it's fun. Cove looked excited by your words. He flipped the book over and focused on the backside summary. His interest in it was only spurring your own now. You were reminded of the hours you spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and pictures inside. You glanced out the window and the moon was high in the sky. You wanted to read the book with Cove. You climbed out of bed and padded over to your side table. You opened it and rummaged around, pushing aside stuffed toys and crayons. Cove called out to you in a confused whisper. What are you doing? You'll see. You let out a cry of victory when you found what you were looking for. You jumped back onto the bed before any hidden boogeyman could catch you unaware. Cove continued to watch as you wiggled your way beneath the blanket you discarded earlier. You pulled it up over your head. Come on, check it out. Bring the book too. After a minute, the bed dipped as Cove got on it. Then the blanket shifted. You filled it with a flashlight in your grip, feeling for the switch. Gee, that's bright. With a click, the small space flooded with bright light. Cove sputtered, putting a hand up to shield himself from the beam. Move it somewhere else. Sorry. You tilted the flashlight so it was shining down towards the floor of your blanket cave and away from Cove's sensitive eyes. Is that better? Yeah. Now we can read and my moms won't know. I do this all the time. My mom and mommy check on me. I have to hide everything under the blanket, but I haven't been caught before. Do you want to try? Cove nodded, pleased by his straightforward response. You placed the book between you and flipped it open to the first page. Meanwhile, he laid down on his belly and shuffled closer, picking up the flashlight to shine it on the pages. His face was illuminated with a warm glow. You mirrored his position, leaning in so you could see the book better. Your foreheads nearly brushed until you shuffled back a comfortable distance. Yeah, narrated. You loved it when Mommy read to you. Why not read as loud as you dared this time of night? You didn't even need to study the page for long. There was once a squire who dreamed of knighthood. All they wanted was to do good. Cove was taken aback when you began to recite the words by heart. You even pronounced knighthood properly, a word which had given you grief in the past. His reaction encouraged you to keep going. Soon you got to an exciting part, the squire and the dragon's first meeting. The squire walked up to the fearsome dragon, their borrowed sword in one hand and a torch in the other. Her red scales danced in the light like flickering flames. Could you read the dragon's line? Do you need to get your glasses? No, my head hurts if I don't wear my glasses for a while. I can kind of see things alright, but I don't know any voices. That's okay, it's fun anyway. Let me just... Cove read the page, his mouth moving silently with the words. Eventually he nodded to himself and spoke them out loud. Who goes there? Roared the dragon. Who dares enter my cave? It was your turn. You went into the squire's famous speech. The next time you looked up from the page, your gaze landed right on Cove. His eyes were following the text, a soft smile lighting up his features. A lock of his hair fell into his field of vision, but he gave it no notice. He was lost in the story. You started when Cove caught you watching him. He raised a questioning eyebrow. What? Nothing. Cove shot you a strange look, but he went back to the book. You did too, even as your eyelids started to droop. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed in your pillow, your pajamas were sticking to you, and your mouth was dry. Slowly you raised yourself onto your elbows. You yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, planning on getting water from the kitchen when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze, and you remembered you weren't alone in your room tonight. Cove, that you? Yeah. You shifted and felt something cylindrical press against your thigh. You fumbled for it. The familiar way the flashlight pressed into your palm. You turned it on. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I kept waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You'd helped your moms redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's not that it's bad. I just always sleep in my bed in my room. That made things a little clearer. It wasn't anything that you'd done. Cove couldn't sleep in a new place. You wondered how long it took for Cove's bedroom in his new house to not be weird to him. Probably a while. I'm gonna go. What? That shook off the last of your doziness. He was going to walk outside, back to his own house, this time of night, all by himself. He noted your soft expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in, and I'm gone outside late before, and I have to go. You don't have to. You couldn't explain why you couldn't let him leave. You just knew you didn't want him to go yet. Cove looked frustrated, though you got the feeling it wasn't at you specifically. Yes, I do. You were at a stalemate. Rounding to your stuff, you studied his sleeping bag. Was there a way you could make him more comfortable? If Cove didn't like how weird your room was, maybe he would feel better if he had something more familiar nearby. Oh! You went to your bed and grabbed your blanket, then you spread it over on the floor. Beside Cove's sleeping bag, he watched as you did, blinking. You're sleeping on the floor? Yeah, next to you. Hopefully that'll help you sleep easier. Is that okay? Uh-huh. You smiled, a small smile playing on his lips. You can try it, but if it doesn't work, I want to go home still. I get it. He grabbed your pillow and a few plush toys for good measure, as Cove picked up his pajama bottoms and folded them and set them aside. You tossed the items in your hands onto the blanket, completing your task. The two of you stood and looked down at your handiwork. You're going to change into your pajamas? No, I can sleep in this. There wasn't anything left to say. In unison, you both laid down side by side. Cove put his glasses aside and got into his sleeping bag. You made yourself as comfortable as you could, wrapped in the fuzzy blanket. The floor was hard and unforgiving against your back, not at all as comfy as your bed, but you didn't mind it much. You had fallen asleep on the floor before. What mattered was if it helped. You swiveled your head to observe him. Is it better? He poked the top of his head out of the sleeping bag and mumbled bashfully. I don't know, I have to sleep first. I can't tell if I can now. Couldn't help but be disappointed by the answer. Promise to wake me up if you want to go. Cove looked confused by the request, but he nodded anyway.
Okay.
Sure. You smiled. At least he wouldn't disappear without you knowing. You settled in for bed on the ground, closing your eyes and waiting for sleep to come. You wanted to give Cove a chance to get comfortable. Surprisingly, he decided to keep talking. This was my first sleepover, I guess. You opened your eyes to see him staring up at the ceiling, his seafoam hair spread out around his head like he'd just gotten shocked. Really, I've had sleepovers before. Sometimes I go to friends' houses. Shiloh slept over a few times too and other stuff. Cove remained quiet, the silence stretched between you two, but it didn't feel awkward right now. You didn't feel the need to break it immediately. How was it? Or is it? It's not bad. I liked reading your book. You did? I kind of thought you weren't having fun. You didn't really say anything when we were eating. I didn't know what to say. Oh. Now you were the one who didn't know what to say. You just laid there, and so did Cove, for what felt like a long time. Hey, Cove? There was no answer. You leaned on your elbow to see Cove's eyes close, his lashes fanned over the apples of his cheeks. His chest raised and lowered with every inhale and exhale. He was fast asleep. You smiled to yourself. Good night. You rested on your back and closed your eyes. Soon enough, you were lulled to sleep by the gentle sound of Cove's breathing. The next morning, you were woken by the sound of Mom's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Mina, wake up. It's time to get up and at 'em. The sun was peeking through your curtains, and you rubbed at your eyes as they adjusted to the new light.
How are you?
Is everything okay down there? You blinked at Mom for a moment, confused, before remembering you had slept down on the floor next to Cove. He was just waking up, yawning loudly. His hand lightly hit your face as he stretched out. When you moved away, you groaned a little at the pain in your shoulder from having slept on the hard ground. It definitely wasn't as comfortable as your cozy bed, that's for sure. Cove wasn't feeling good, so I stayed with him. You mumbled and glanced at Cove. You rubbed at his eyes sleepily. He didn't say anything. Still, you were glad he decided to stay the night in the end. When you looked at Mom next, she was smiling at you both. Mommy was standing in the doorway behind her, doing the same thing. Alright, kids, we'll be downstairs making breakfast. Don't take too long coming down. She said something to Mommy on her way out that made the two of them giggle. Did you sleep okay? You stood up and stretched your leg, watching Cove fumble with the bedside drawer and pull out his glasses. I think so. He had been able to relax when it was just the two of you in the night. Now that a new day had come, he gave the impression of feeling out of place again. But the smile on his face had a gentle light. Thanks, Mina. You're welcome. Even if it couldn't be a perfect time, it was worth it. Cove didn't stay for breakfast. He really was ready to go at that point. Mommy called to make sure Mr. Holden was up before Cove went home. He gave you a small wave as he left, thanking your moms for letting him stay before he disappeared through the front door. You smiled at the sight. Cove's very first sleepover had come to an end. Oh my god, everyone! Oh my god, wow, what a moment. Okay, so we had our first sleepover with Cove this episode, and everyone, sadly, that is the last moment of step 1. So next episode, we are possibly gonna be, reading all the dialogue, how we did in the first episode of Our Life, and yeah. But that's really it for this episode. I'm tired of talking, so yeah. Lastly, you're a gentleman. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye!